Jackie rushes into the camera, I rush into her, and action. Yo, that was pretty cool. I'm so scared. This is how we shot a cinematic e-bike video with no crew, no money, and had a ton of fun doing it. Fucking amateur hour. Jeez. If you watch this video from start to finish, you'll learn about when ignoring a client is a good thing, cinematic camera moves I always have in my pocket, and why chickens are the secret to the best gimbal cinematography. Gimbal cinematography can sometimes look like the camera's swooping around and they're using it not in the function to what it should be used as. And I'm gonna give you some tips on how to get proper gimbal cinematics. The first one is have a vertical, horizontal, or lateral movement and lock into that. Meaning if it's going forward or straight, lock it straight forward. If it's going left or right, lock it as a left or right movement. And then you can start experimenting with things like parallaxing or moving the camera around. But what can end up happening that makes gimbal shots look like garbage is when it goes as like a straight up shot and then it like bounces around and then it like moves all around and it gets distracting. And the same rule actually applies with if the camera was on a tripod or if the camera was handheld. And go for it. The best way to think about it is camera movement relates to how we move within a space as humans. The most accurate interpretation of how humans work is like a steady cam shot. Our heads don't flail around, they just sort of like glide through a space or a tripod or just us sitting still. But when it starts to feel disorienting is when it becomes too handheld or the camera's bobbing around a whole bunch. So try and emulate a human movement and you're gonna get, I think, a lot better of a result. Oh, wow. Look at that halation. We had this idea of me going on the back and I wanted to get like this almost lock off GoPro style shot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a cool angle, but I don't think it's, if you're too scared to do it. Oh my God, I'm not doing it. No, wait, where'd my peg go? I'm so scared. Yeah. Okay, ready? I'm gonna go. Yeah, this is ATV skills. Do you feel like you have control?
Yeah, I got control.
Oh, me. No, all right, we're not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. Definitely not. That was terrifying. It did not work. And this is the thing, like if you're working on a commercial, there's no way you're gonna be able to experiment with shots like this. The client's not gonna give you time, budget's not gonna give you time. So us just messing around, sometimes you waste time, just try to have fun, but also sometimes you garner the best shots. And that would be the big difference between like YouTube filmmaking versus like proper commercial filmmaking. Try and keep that distance. It's okay, just keep it up. Our bike was yellow, reminded me of Bumblebee from Transformers. So I was like, okay, why don't we get like those nice lens flare streaks? We have a cute girl on a bike and we just go for like a little more Hollywood. So with these shots that we're getting now are like these kind of fun cutaway shots. And I thought it'd be fun if like the camera was close and moving fast, sort of like what a bolt camera would do. Because we didn't have a big footprint, small footprint was just allowing us to walk around and find cool things. So Matt found this cool puddle. We decided to try and shoot for like this reflection shot. Typically when you go shoot something, you're gonna do it like probably 10 times to nail it, 4 times for technical and like 4 times for performance. Now, sometimes it can be way less. Like for this, we ended up doing, I think, like 5 times in total, but I would say just always estimate to be shooting more than less. I thought I looked so cool shooting this bike video. Okay, so I'm gonna go down and try and stay as close to the puddle as possible. And Matt's gonna get this banger reflection shot. There's no way to make a helmet look cool. But when you're riding, like you feel badass, which I want to talk quickly about the bikes. The bikes are absolutely awesome. Ad Motor gave us these. They're electric e-bikes that go up to 20 miles per hour. They have a battery charge that goes up to, I believe, 100 miles, meaning like that's how long the charge lasts for. We just had an awesome time. They assembled in like 15 minutes. I think like low looking up at all this would be sweet. Oh yeah, that's dope. As a cinematographer, you're gonna find yourself always chasing two things, sun and location, and typically those two ride together. So when you're in exteriors, you're just gonna try and find the spots that the sun is hitting nicely. Now I found that they were hitting this building, which then was creating a nice bounce. And I also just thought that these storage containers made for like a really nice backdrop. So we shot our reverse, which was shooting towards the character as he rode up, and then towards the sun, which was kind of the more cinematic shot because we were getting that nice bounce off these buildings. Okay. Jesus, looks like Harley Davidson commercial. And with shooting on a gimbal, the nice thing is, since you don't have sticks on the ground, which I would say is kind of one of now becoming my preferred ways of filming, is you can find frames. As soon as your camera is locked into a position, whether it's on a tripod or dolly, you're stuck in that position, and then you can't really move it when you're rolling, and then you have to do take after take after take. Versus, when you're doing moving shots, it's really nice just to be able to like slightly adjust the camera, slightly adjust the frame while you're shooting. Not crazy, but slightly, and you're able to get a much better shot while the camera's rolling, so you don't have to go over and over and over again, because the most precious asset on set is time. Our next setup was going to the sand dunes.
Add motor.
Best way to get smooth gimbal shots, here's a couple of my techniques. One is to be like on the ground. So in this, you'll see like I'm barefoot running around in these sequences, but also I'm engaging with my environment, meaning whenever I'm shooting, I'm thinking of how like a chicken, if you like seen videos of chickens kind of just go with the movement, and that's how you should operate. When you move bob it up and down, you're gonna see that in the frame. So I always try and keep the camera in sort of this invisible box that I never try and bounce it out of. So while I'm still focusing on the frame, I'm also trying to make sure that I'm not moving up or down, and the only movements that I provide on the camera are horizontal type movements. Now I want to talk about the lens and camera setup. So I wanted to go for that Michael Bay look. So we shot on the Sony FX3 with these Freewell adapters on my 85. So I shot on an 85 millimeter to get a lot of motion within the shot to make things feel faster. The longer the lens, the more movement you're gonna get in the frame, meaning the faster things are going to look. E-bikes don't look that epic right out of the box. So shooting with a longer lens, and same with cars, shooting on a longer lens just makes things look cooler. So I knew if I was able to get my talent further away and either move with them or get them to move towards me, I was able to get a lot of movement in the frame. When you're seeing style on set versus adding it in post-production, you're able to get inspired. This is why I like using a monitor with LUTs on it, why I like having these adapters or shooting anamorphic to get flares, because then you start prioritizing certain frames as opposed to playing the imagination game, which I think a lot of us do. And it's a great game to have, but I think it's also important to be able to see the closest image to what it's gonna look like at the end while you're filming. And so what I'm always trying to do with the camera, because we're shooting on the 85, is to do parallax movements, meaning one character is going one direction, I'm going in the other direction, and we're creating sort of like a semicircle rotation around each other. And what that does is it creates more movement in the background, versus if you're going together with the person, that still looks great, but you're not getting like twice the speed. It's so hard on me to do all this stuff. It's like I gotta tell her where to go, and then I have to point, my finger gets cold. Being a director is way too hard. It's so funny, when you see a director on set and they're doing like the finger point thing, you're like, oh man, they're so epic. That is the laziest thing you can do. You're quite literally being like, you go over there, I'm gonna stay here, you're gonna go, yeah, go, keep going. All right, let's see if that dumb run was worth it. Yeah, all right, like that. Just like buying a house, film is all about location, location, location. So what we did was we made sure we had some cool spaces to make this work. We shot in a forest, which was very close to our house, these cool like sand dune / sand bank locations, and then we shot at this like old military base. And the pairing between all of those, hey, I always try to look for texture, space to play in. So since there was a moving vehicle, I want to make sure that there was a lot of different spots we could go shoot in, and we get movement on the bike. And then I'm always looking for things to get depth in. So what's in the foreground, what's in the background. So shooting in a forest is nice because you get trees in the foreground, which create motion. Shooting at these sand dunes was nice because I was able to get like a dune in the foreground and then dunes in the background. And then in this like industrial warehouse area, we had sort of the grunge in the foreground. We had puddles, and it just helps shooting things better. And then you can go to the next step, which is doing a location scout, which can help you learn where the sun is going. Now, since we live in the area, we knew exactly like what we were looking for and how the light was working in those spaces. Oh, maybe not that fast. Gimbal cinematography and how bad it is for you. I just want to say, like, I'm a huge gimbal advocate. I shoot 90% of the stuff I film on gimbals, not out of any other way that it just fits my style. I love handheld as well. I love shooting on tripods, but this just works for how I like filming. But what I will say is, like, the movements that I do, I really put my body on the lines.
I honestly think all of this camera like jumping around, I'm gonna regret in about 20 years when I'm like sitting there in my chair like,
So if you deal with like physical issues, whether it's like back problems or I wanted to say asparagus, if you deal with arthritis or any sort of physical things, like just remember like shooting can be taxing. So just take care of your body while you're doing it. Cause like after I shoot these things, sometimes I get sore. I take care of my body, I do cold dips and stuff. Just take care of yourself. My top tip for shooting commercials on a budget, and actually at any budget, is to do what the genre is not doing. This is what I've learned from some of the best DPs out there is if you can shoot it the way the client isn't necessarily expecting and they're gonna give you creative control, then go for it. I knew Ad Motor's videos weren't this like super cinematic, moody vibe, and they're a little bit more wholesome. So what I did was just went like complete opposite to their branding, shot it like a Michael Bay film, and they were really stoked about it because it stands out. And I think, you know, you don't always have to do things different or for the sake of originality, but it can go a long way and it can make a brand seem just different, or the fact that they're willing to explore and expand. And that is the value of shooting things like a videographer or a YouTuber versus the like traditional way, because there's so many more gatekeepers in the way. If you're interested in these little cruisers, I highly recommend taking a look at Ad Motor in the description below. You can get $80 off your purchase, and you get a bike like ours. We got 2 of these cruisers. One of them is a retro colored one. Another one is like this Bumblebee yellow one. The fact that we can go for 105 miles on a single charge and up to 20 miles per hour with these guys is so cool. And then if the battery were to run out, you can pedal and just use like human power. I highly recommend taking a look at these things. We absolutely love them. And if you liked the like color grade in this video or some of the additional styles, I'm going to be uploading the more in-depth sort of behind the scenes of how we did this to my Patreon. So only people who follow me on Patreon can see sort of like the editing and the mechanics of this. I love you guys. Have an amazing day, and I hope you enjoyed the making of this. I'll see you guys in another video. Love you. Bye.